So the first thing I started off looking at was conditioning, both Pavlov's and Skinner's, and I think Pavlov's is the most familiar, and that's the idea that Pavlov conditioned the dogs that he had in his care in a psychological study to involuntarily salivate at the sound of a bell, and he did that via a stimulus. So he paired a stimulus with the bell, so pressed the bell, gave them some food, and did it enough times that the pathway in their mind would be created so as that when the bell was pressed, the involuntary response of drooling occurred. And that in extent has, in what I was reading, been literally applied across species to the ways that some horses could, the way that horses could learn with the involuntary response. For example, what I was talking about yesterday with the whip, the involuntary response of the association with whip and fear, or if a horse had a bad experience with the farrier, with the farrier and with fear, or with the farrier's tools without the presence of the thing that actually caused the fear. Operant conditioning, so on the other hand, is the change in environment causing behaviour change. For example, if a horse, if a Shetland pony butts up against an electric fence, it's not actually on, they're going to learn that actually they can keep testing electric fences, and they're going to lose their respect for that, because the reward is they get food the other side of the fence, they're able to go through. And so when we're looking at how horses learn in the operant conditioning model, positively reinforcing and negatively reinforcing behaviour responses to changes in the environment is the idea behind that psychological model of how horses learn. Does that make sense? That small scale changes in the environment and the horse's response to that and their behaviour therein all goes into the way that horses have learned certain things, and also the involuntary responses that they've learned through stimuli in their environment as being how they've learned things as well. That's really interesting when you have a horse presenting a behaviour, to think it could have been learnt in this way, it could have been learnt in that way, for example. I then had a look at a couple of other models or psychological theories on how horses learn, the approach and retreat and the comfort zone, which at first glance seemed quite similar, but actually there was a little bit of a difference in how we've done things and how we've been playing with the horses. So the approach and retreat, when it came to my mind, was how you were initially working with Blue in the ring yesterday, when you were pushing Blue to the edge of his comfort zone and then retreating to allow him to relax rather than clear off around the ring. And that's the approach that I think Pat Pirelli uses most of all, which is where he's pushing the horse to the edge of comfort from an object or from some stimulus that the horse is reacting to, and then retreats from that back into the horse's comfort zone, which is slightly at odds to the comfort zone model, which is that you think about 3 concentric circles. So you've got your comfort zone. So here, my comfort zone might be in this box with my colouring pencils. These objects on the outside might be the edge of my comfort zone, so where I'm stretched, where I'm learning, where there is chaos, that kind of thing, where children learn, for example, and then outside of that is fear and things that are too much out of your comfort zone that are terrifying. And the idea that actually moving into that area of stretching is where you're able to allow the horse to learn, and that's a little bit like Trish, like you were doing with Poppy, when you put your hand there, and instead of retreating from the fear response, actually going, actually that's nothing's happening here, this is okay. But the flip side to that being that the theorist who I was reading, I'm not exactly sure, that actually when horses spend too long, or when anyone spends too long in the fear zone, the on side of the comfort, the stretching zone, it can actually cause the comfort zone to shrink and for horses to go more quickly into that fear response. And if you think about, is everyone familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? That actually fear subsumes learning and risk taking, and actually if horses spend a lot of time in the fear place, like children would if they're unsafe in a classroom. They're unable to access that stretching their comfort zone, that learning, that place where they're willing to take risks. And I think that's kind of it in my whistle-stop tour of 4 of the theories that I went through. But what struck me most about it was that each of these theories underpin the behaviours that the horses are presenting to us at any one point, and all of these can be taken into consideration when we're looking at helping a horse to learn to do something new. However, if you take one in itself as the way to teach a horse to do something by tapping into that psychological model of learning strand alone, that it's not going to generate true learning. It's going to generate habits, it's going to generate tricks and responses. It's going to really narrow the horse's capacity to learn and deal with new situations, I think.
But on the other hand, if you mix them all up, are you then confusing the horse? Do you then, because does the horse then not understand the place that you're trying to take it to, or trust that this is a process, a system that they're used to? Do you see what I mean?
I do. And I think
I would have thought that different methods of doing it would apply to different situations.
But not different horses.
Yeah. A horse is a situation. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
But I mean,
a
if
horse
you've got
in that
that
situation.
one horse and they're used to learning and they're comfortable learning that way, and you've worked like some children are, visual learners, and some like reading, some like listening.
Yeah,
do you have to work out what the horse is and then stick to that, or what happens if you mix them up, or the horse goes somewhere new? I mean, for example, yesterday when we were getting Poppy to back up, and you shook the rope, and I said, actually, it's a sort of a bump. You know, would that confuse her? I don't know, because she still did it, didn't she? She still backed up. But then the question is, so you've decided, let's say you're going to take the Pavlov model, and that's how you're going to train your animal or communicate with your animal. Does it then confuse them? So they go on to next owner or whatever, and someone else does something different. Does the animal then go, hey? Or, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, almost like a different language of
is it a different language? Is it a different...
I think, I don't have the answer, but I think the conclusion I came to when thinking that through was that, say we take a scenario like horse terrified of a whip, with a decent understanding of what could cause that, then first of all we've got a level of sort of empathic understanding on how to progress.
Yeah.
That potentially if that was created through operant conditioning, that the animals associated that with fear, that you can then gather information about how you can test the horse's comfort zone with that, to where you're... I think the comfort zone model of getting into a place of stretching without fear resonated most with me with what would make sense from learning, not necessarily just from working with horses but from kids as well, but understanding what has caused that initial fear, what has caused that reaction, or what causes the response that you're getting out of what you're asking, and how. Because 2 years ago, a year ago, if you'd have wiggled the rope at my mini, she would have gone. And actually, so you're completely right, it is different things for different horses. But in terms of how you use it,
But I think if you put it into the context of children, you think of how many different educationalists there are. And so you had the model with the hats. That's not the only way of doing it. Is it? You possibly take a bit here from a bit here. You react to what the child needs, as opposed to, that's my theory. That's what I'm going to use.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to
and
do.
I'm not wavering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.